The room was small, rectangular, filled with the smell of coffee and floor polish. A chill seeped in through the glass window overlooking the campus trees, and I sat at the end of a wide table, the hard plastic chair biting into my thighs. 3 faculty members in navy blazers and patterned scarves watched me with expressionless faces. A sheet of paper lay in front of each one, my application, creased at the corner, where I'd nervously tapped it the night before. "We appreciate your effort," said the oldest reviewer, a woman with cropped grey hair and a gold chain. Her voice was tired, as if grading students' hopes wore her down too. "But we don't feel your background aligns with our program's goals. Choreography is competitive. We suggest you take more time, perhaps study dance theory, return in a few years." Her words landed like weights. I swallowed, my tongue thick, my palms slick. The middle reviewer, a thin man with spectacles, glanced at me, nothing behind his eyes but boredom. "This isn't easy, but ambition is not always enough. You need discipline, technical foundation. Perhaps try joining the performance ensemble instead." He was already turning to his next file. I stood, blinking, forcing myself not to cry in front of the panel. "Thank you for your time," I said. No one looked up when I walked out. Out in the corridor, I pressed my back against the cold wall, my breath bursting in shudders. My phone buzzed. Mum. The screen flashed Soldier On as if she'd predicted the outcome. I left it unanswered. The world shrank as I walked outside. The campus was bursting with students, laughing, huddling, all colors and noise. I hugged my bag tighter, wishing for invisibility. Shame was a fire under my skin, not just at being rejected, but at how naive I'd been. My brother Mario would have a field day. "Told you," he'd say. "Dancing around like a pelican is fun, sure, but get a real job." At home in the western suburbs, our old weatherboard house was thick with voices. Nonna was making coffee in the kitchen, the radio blaring Friday talkback. When I let myself in, she called my name. "Sophia, up for dinner." I mumbled back, heading straight to my room. Mario's door was open. He caught my eye, raised an eyebrow. "How'd your future as Sydney's answer to Beyoncé go?" His smirk made me want to scream. I shut my door, letting my bag slide to the floor. Posters on my wall, ink curling at the edges, stared back. Dancers mid-leap, arms graceful, bodies taut with possibility, all illusions. I slid beneath my blankets, pressing my face into the pillow so no one would hear. That week was a blur. My parents tried to be gentle. "Maybe try again next year, maybe temp work at the bank," Mum said, slicing carrots while I stared into my tea. Dad didn't say much, just pressed a rough hand to my shoulder when he passed. At Sunday lunch, the whole family gathered. Mario regaled the table with stories of his warehouse job, cracking jokes about pallet jacks. When he took a breath, Uncle Sam chimed in. "So, Sophia, uni going well?" The question barely hid his doubt. I felt their stares. The words came out stiff. "Didn't get in. Committee said I'm not what they're looking for." "Ah well," Nonna said, clucking. "Better luck next time." Mario grunted. "Maybe stick to Zumba at the community center, like a hobby. Get a job someone pays for." The room laughed. Embarrassment prickled at my neck. The shame was heavier when it was casual, like I'd failed some basic test of practicality. For a year, I drifted between retail jobs, stacking shelves at Kohl's, selling shoes at Westfield, folding t-shirts until my dreams dulled. But at night, when the world was quiet, I danced. In my room, I sidestepped around the foot of my bed, letting the music carry me. Sometimes in darkness, sometimes in the blue glow of my laptop, watching hours of choreography on YouTube, learning the angles, the nuance, the tiny gestures that made movement tell a story. My only real escape was the local community hall. Saturday mornings, I taught kids dance classes. $10, $20 here and there, not enough for anything but snacks. The parents were kind, but always handed money with a doubtful smile. "You're so passionate, Sophia," they'd say, meaning good luck finding a real career. One evening, as I watched the kids practice for the annual festival on the cracked wooden stage, I felt a switch flick somewhere inside. A stubbornness burned up. If no one believed in me, I'd find people who did. Sydney was a city stitched from 1,000 scenes. Dancers hiding in shadowed rehearsal rooms, scrabbling for space in moldy basements behind Kmart, sweating out routines in the glare of mirrored studios. I started showing up at auditions, even if 90 others packed the room, even if the choreographers never remembered my name. Most of the time I failed. Sometimes I made it to the final round, sometimes I was cut at the first step. My name became a murmur on registration sheets, often misspelled, but in each awkward gig, each lost opportunity, I learned. I learned about stamina, about eating rejection and grinding out work after my real job ended. I learned to take the pain home, stretch my sore legs, and go back in the morning. One afternoon, after a particularly draining audition, a hip-hop piece for an obscure music video, I collapsed onto my bed and stared up at the ceiling. Mario's voice filtered in from the hallway. "Give it up, Soph, plenty of teachers in your shoes. You're not gonna get rich doing star jumps on tippy toes." That night, I made a decision. I'd save every spare dollar, every 20, every tip, and try for New York. My Instagram feed was filled with dancers scraping by in grimy walk-ups, living on dreams and ramen. If they could survive, maybe I could too. I picked up as many shifts as possible. Early mornings at Kohl's, late nights cleaning at a yoga studio, teaching toddlers on weekends. The grind wore me thin, but my vision sharpened. One ticket, one shot, no safety net. It took 6 months to gather enough funds. Even then, Dad seemed unconvinced. "You sure about this? We're not like those fancy city people." But he handed me a battered envelope stuffed with a few 50s anyway, as if money could cushion the freefall. Mum clung to me at the airport, whispering prayers in Italian, her lips trembling as she pressed a tiny Madonna medallion into my palm. The flight felt both endless and instant. My mind flickered with memories of Sydney's sun, my room, the sharp smell of Nonna's sauce on Sunday. New York in February was a smack of ice. The city was loud, relentless, a mash of languages and shadows, skyscrapers scraping at grey sky. I rented a closet-sized room in Queens, 3 stops from Manhattan, and lived off instant noodles and apples. I practiced in tiny, humid studios, auditioned everywhere. For a while, my feet lived in blisters and my shoulders in ache. The first job was for a Latin fusion club 3 nights a week. I danced backup for singers no one remembered. The pay was barely enough for rent, but I saved what I could. I made friends, dancers as hungry and exhausted as me, and together we sweated, cried, and cursed the city. For every step forward, it felt like there was a stumble back. Months bled into years. In time, I found my niche. Choreography. I began posting short videos online, strange, punchy routines set to whatever music I could find copyright-free. Some flopped. A few went viral, shared from one cough-splattered subway seat to the next. I gained followers. People started tagging me, clubs called, even brands reached out. Could I choreograph something for their campaign? My life became a blur of 4 a.m. rehearsals, long meetings, strange costumes. My muscles hardened, the shame that had wrapped itself around my ribs loosened. I was who I'd always wanted to be, spent, raw, alive. 3 years passed before I came back to Sydney. Landing at Kingsford Smith felt surreal. The air was thick with jacaranda, heat shimmering off the tarmac. Mum and Dad waited just beyond customs, Mum teary, Dad tight with pride. Mario had changed little, still taller, bulkier, all swagger but with that old glint in his eye. The house was the same, chipped paint, the front yard tangled with rosemary, Nonna simmering sauce. For a while I sank back into the rhythms. Morning tea, bread from the Italian bakery, Mario's footy games on TV. That Sunday, lunch was crowded, loud with relatives, the kind of meal I'd missed out on for years. Uncle Sam passed me salad. "How's America?" His tone held an edge, as if he couldn't quite believe I'd made it past the first audition. "It's good." My confidence felt new, raw, but I smiled. Mario tapped his glass with a spoon, drawing attention to himself as always. "Sophia's back, everyone, world-famous dancer, straight from Broadway." The table laughed. I felt the familiar flush creep up my neck, part embarrassment, part defiance. Mum interrupted, waving her phone. "Show them the video, Sophie," she beamed. "No, really, it's not," I began, but Mario already had her phone. He scrolled my Instagram, smirking still, then he stopped, peering at the screen. His eyes widened a bit. "This real?" He scrolled back to a video. Me, in baggy shorts and a scarlet jacket, leading 20 dancers across a roof in Harlem, in a routine I'd designed for a campaign that played during the NBA Finals. The city skyline washed gold in twilight, nothing staged, nothing fake, just sweat, laughter, craft. The family crowded around the screen, faces awash in the flickering light. The silence felt heavy, expectant. The sound of the music leaked out, tinny but triumphant. Mario's usual jeering smile faded. "Wait, that's you? You did this whole thing?" My chest ached. "Yeah, they wanted me to create something new. We shot it last summer, got 60,000 likes the first night." The relatives murmured, confused but impressed. Uncle Sam's brows rose. "Did you get paid for this?" I grinned, unable to help it. "Yeah. Enough to go around the block a few times, maybe even fix the roof on this house." Nonna watched, her palms pressed tight, tears gathered in her eyes. Never once had she said the words, but I saw it in her face, finally, belief. That week, invitations arrived. Would I teach a masterclass at the Arts Center? Could I talk to students at the university that rejected me? I said yes each time, though nerves gnawed at me. The hall at the university was tired, beige walls and the same chairs as before. When I stepped inside, the new review committee offered unsure smiles. They'd watched the video. One professor, younger this time, shook my hand, her palm cool against mine. "We are grateful you're here. The students look up to you." She meant more, I felt it. The auditorium gradually filled. Some faces were eager, some withdrawn. I stood in front of them, feeling again that old swell of nervousness, the voice that whispered, "You're still not enough." But I kept my shoulders back, my voice clear. I told them the truth. About rejection, about the empty apartments, about how the only thing more exhausting than failing was not trying. Someone in the back row raised a hand. "How'd you keep going?" I thought of Sydney Knight's family jokes, the loneliness of New York, and the way the city lights looked through a taxi window after a show. I thought of my hands, calloused and strong. I woke up every day and refused to shrink myself for other people's comfort. I made mistakes, I was broke and scared, but I knew I'd regret giving up more than anything. After, students came up for photos. Some shared their stories, their failures. For the first time, I saw the power in my journey, not just glitter and applause, but a torch passed on. Back at home, Mum watched from the doorway as I unpacked my suitcase. "You're different, darling. You know who you are now." I rested my hand on hers. I just finally stopped listening to people who never danced a day in their life. Outside, Mario worked on his car. He met my gaze over the hood, sheepish. "Want to show me a few moves, Soph?" he asked, half a joke, half apology. I laughed, stepping out into the soft blue Sydney dusk. The air was light with the scent of basil and promise. For the first time, I wasn't running from shame, I was bringing something home, and that was enough.